Okay, friends, Alex Wiseman back again to talk to you about CIE 401, Week 10. This week we are actually spending all of our class time dedicated to the student-led group discussion of the book Lessons from Lessons from Mount Kilimanjaro by Amy Stambach. That means that, first of all, class is going to be the full 3 hours this week. I know that we've been trying to reduce class time so you can spend as much time as possible outside of class in your preparation activities, making our 2 hours together even more productive. But we're really going to need the full 3 hours to work through Lessons from Mount Kilimanjaro. I think you're really going to like it. That's all I have to say. The group that is preparing the discussion for Lessons from Mount Kilimanjaro, I know, has really put a lot of effort into it, and it's going to be a really engaging time, really relevant to our discussion of globalization and contextualization in education worldwide as well. But I still want you to work through some of the readings and modules related to our theme for the week, Political Realities of Globalization and Contextualization. So please still read all of Part 6 on global governance. That's about 40 pages. We won't be discussing that section specifically in class because we'll be doing this instead, but it's all relevant to the work that you're doing for the class, relevant to the topic, relevant to the assignments you're doing, relevant to the degree program as a whole if you're in CIE, so it's important stuff all told. There are a couple of objectives that we're trying to get through for week 10. One is we want to understand how governments use networks to extend their global reach and how educational systems become network mechanisms. And to do that, I've set up Module 1 for you about education as a global network. There are going to be a couple of videos, very short videos, from one of the authors from the section in Lechner and Bolai's book, Anne-Marie Slaughter, who's going to talk about international networks and then international organizations. Really interesting and to-the-point videos. Your challenge is to think about how this connects to education. How does what Professor Slaughter is saying connect to the world of education and to our discussions about globalization and contextualization? That's going to be followed in that same section with a reading from the Teach for All website. I'd like for you to actually link through to the Teach for All website here and then watch their recruitment video to think about how does Teach for All serve as an NGO or an organization that has this global network and creates a network that influences curriculum and teaching and policy and whatever else that happens worldwide around education. Then the second objective is to understand the role that money plays in promoting educational curricular programs, projects, and policies at the national and global levels. By the way, there's no end to the critiques about how finance and education finance and money corrupts education worldwide. That's a really hefty part of the information that's available out there. So what I've done is I've tried to break it down into just two very simple videos. One from the World Bank Group. It's a short video. It's about a minute and a half, just talking about the World Bank sort of announcing. I think it's the president of the World Bank in this video announcing how they have doubled financing around results-based initiatives in education. This is a key way that the World Bank and, quite frankly, other organizations, both intergovernmental organizations, IGOs, and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, influence educational policy, curriculum, teaching, etc. That goes on at the local level. And then that's going to be followed by this TED Talk by a woman who has created a way to address educational problems without any more money. So you get one is an organization that wants to sort of manipulate education through finance, and the other is someone who is trying to reform education without using resources as the main mechanism. So interesting way to think about that. And then finally, the last objective for this week is What the various elements of global governance discussed in the whole week's readings and the preparation materials below tell us about the role of the states, collective capacity to address cross-border problems, and possible steps towards global educational governance. You will see that we have in this section then, instead of addressing that big broad question, we're going to look specifically at, or I want you to think about specifically about international NGOs, religion, and education. I know we have a religion and education week coming up towards the end of the semester. In fact, it might be the last regular week of the semester before we get into your presentations. But we're gonna peek into it right now, and part of it is because the author of Lessons from Mount Kilimanjaro, Amy Stambach, is an expert in education and religion worldwide. There is an hour-long video that I have linked here. I obviously don't expect you to watch an hour-long video unless you want to. I think it's an interesting video. I think she's an excellent scholar. So I encourage you to watch it, but you don't have to. It's very long, so feel free to skip around just to get a sense for Amy Stambach's work and how international NGOs connected to religion influence the governance of education in African local contexts. So it's got all of our themes sort of wrapped into one from this week, plus it links us to the in-class student-led discussion. All good stuff. So that's how you're preparing for class this week, by working through these objectives, by reading the Lechner and Boley book, by watching the materials above, and preparing to participate in the discussion about Amy Stambach's book by paying attention to some of the points she makes about education and evangelism in Africa in her video, just by skimming it. And then, of course, participate by posting your comments in the Leave a Reply section below. It's going to be a really fascinating class this week. I can't wait to see you there.